All right. You wash on Monday, you iron on Tuesday, right?
It's a long way up here.
All righty. This is the iron that probably everyone is familiar with. It's called a flat iron or a sad iron. They're sad not because they're unhappy. It's actually a Latin word that means heavy. But if you've had to ever do one, you understand why they call them sad, because it's very unhappy work to have to handle them. You have to set these in the fire till they get very, very hot, and then you have to wear a big heavy mitt of some kind to be able to grasp it and pick it up to use it. I can tell you, ladies, there's no way that you can use this without burning your fingers. It's going to get you one way or another. Plus, once you get it out of the fire, it's what? It's dirty. And you've just washed these clothes, right? So now you've got to lay a big, thick pressing cloth over the top of whatever you're ironing to be able to use this. It was a lot of work. But for the finer things, we use this instead. For the ladies' fine gowns, the gentlemen's shirts, maybe your nice fine aprons that you don't want to be ruined, we use this. This is called a slicken stone. A slicken stone. The reason it's called a stone is because we have found these all the way back in Viking women graves. And the Vikings could not blow glass to make a handle, but they did know how to make glass. So theirs look like rocks that are smooth on one side. That's why they're called stones. But the way that this would work is you have a smoothing board, one that you could sit on your lap or maybe put on a table. Very, very smooth. A lot of times they were a thin marble. And you would lay your linen down on that and sprinkle some water to dampen it. And then you take the slicken stone and you begin to rub it back and forth. And as you do, it builds up a friction. And the friction heats it and it begins to iron without burning your hands on. It also makes beautiful, beautiful pleats, ladies. It does a beautiful job pleating clothes because of the weight of it and because of the heat that it brings up. Now, what about the gentlemen? Tonight is the fine dance, and they want to go with their pretty ruffled shirts and dance with all the ladies. But I can iron them shirts like this, but how do we iron those ruffles? You know he doesn't want to go there with a beautiful iron shirt and a ruffle that looks like a piece of lettuce, right? Well, that's where we've got this. This is called a goffrine iron, And the way that it works is you lay the poker into the fire and heat it. Once it's heated up, you slide it into the goffer like that, and it heats that little tube. And you take your ruffles and lay them over the top like that, one at a time. And it makes beautiful little round ruffles. It does a very beautiful job. Last is this. This is called a mangle iron. And this is what you would be using, ladies, to iron your sheets, pillowcases, tablecloths, napkins, anything wide and flat that would take forever with something of these kind. But it's something you could fold up and put on a pin like this. You fold it up and dampen it down, and then once you get it on the pin situated the way that you want to, you take the mangle board and you mangle it back and forth like that. You don't heat it, you just mangle it. Now you wouldn't think that would do a whole lot now, would you? But I tell you that you have no idea what a beautiful job it can do on the inside. Can any of you see the sheen that it's brought back out into that linen again? It shines it, it softens it, it brings all the fineness back out. Is that soft? You've never really slept, ladies, until you've slept on properly mangled sheets. These came from the Scandinavian countries, is where they started out at. And they came over here via the Netherlands, then to England, and then over here. And they're very important in the Scandinavian countries, because this is how a young man would propose to a young lady in the village. You see, when he wanted to propose, he would carve her a mangle. And he would do a beautiful job of putting all types of almost Celtic-looking figures up through here, dramatic figures, curls. The handles a lot of times would be in the shape of a horse with its foot in the air. I think this gentleman was married because he didn't try very hard. But he would put his initials on it somewhere, and then early in the wee hours of the morning, the young man would sneak over and he would hang it on the door of the young lady he was proposing to. so that everyone in the village could see it and everyone knew. Now when the young lady came out, if she picked it up off the door and carried it back into the house, then that meant yes, and there was going to be a wedding. But if she left it hang there on the door all day long, that meant no. And that poor young man would have to sneak over in the darkness and take it off the door and carry it back home again. And they say that you could always tell who the worst bachelor was in the village because he'd have a house full of mangles. Well, now there you are. I've taught you how to do the wash, and I've taught you how to iron your clothes. Have you any questions of you? Have I told you too much? No. Are you all going home to kiss that thing you call a washing machine? Yes, ma'am.
So what's the thing around your neck?
That would be because I'm an indentured servant and I belong to this gentleman right here.
Do you have to wear that all the time?
I do, ma'am. The magistrate's the one that put it on me because I ran away from one of my other masters. And after you've run away more than twice, they put a collar on you to make sure everyone knows. So I have 6.5 more years to wear this. Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious as to why they didn't do the wash with the bucking.
The bucking?
Yes, all the time. It was easier.
Well, I would imagine it would be because it took up room. And that does tie you down to one thing, and it does take a long time, 12 hours. And you can't use the stain remover in this. So this probably did a better job in the long run. But it was a way that you could do it in the corner of a room inside, you know, and be able to go on about your work in between. Yes, sir. Or do you just stretch it? That's all right. I like to do that too. Anyone else?
How long did it take you in a typical day to do a load of laundry?
One load? Well, I can
How
tell
much
you
is a load?
I can tell you that on wash day in the colonies, they usually started at 4:30 in the morning. Because not only do you have to build the fire and get it going, but you've got to carry the water. And it usually took somewhere around 160 to 200 gallons of water to be able to run this. So you're going to be carrying water all day long. And you have to do a fresh tub. You know how it is. You want to do a fresh tub when the water gets dirty. So, and you don't want to wash whites in the water that you've done the darks in because it might, you know, that kind of thing. So you were doing laundry from 4:30 in the morning until dark, usually. So it was a very, very hard, long day. One load like that of, I'm sorry?
Would you help us carry water in the morning? The river is just over the hill.
Yeah.
You know the yoke? You've seen me carry the yoke with the buckets on it? It takes 16 trips with that yoke to fill this up, one time. So you can imagine you're going to be really doing a lot of water carrying. Well, you know, that's where they did most of the time, but when you're in the colonies, you don't have that option when you're in the cities. By the way, did you notice that I've got my white things laid out on the ground? And I did have most of my white things down, but I had to put them all up because of there wasn't enough green grass. But you always hung your dark things up, and when you do have green grass or a green bush or a green hedge, anything that's green, you want to always put your whites out on that, okay? Always your whites go on the ground. That's because of the green grass or the greenness, because that has something in it called chlorophyll. And don't you want your white things to bleach out? Isn't that right? Did you know that when the sun shines down on something green, that it goes through a little process where it releases a gas into the air? Do you know what kind of gas lets go? Oxygen. So what's the strongest bleach we have, sir? Walk down the laundry aisle and don't all the whitener brighteners start with the word oxy? That's right. So as you throw your white things out and the sun comes down from the top, that grass is bleaching it from the bottom with oxygen. So the longer you can leave them out there on the grass, the whiter and whiter they will be. But now if you leave them out there for more than 5 or 6 days, you want to be sure and bring them in and wash them with sour milk. Don't wear them right away. The sour milk will stop the bleaching and it works like a fabric softener. And you put it back in the wash or just in the rinse one time and then hang it up and it's soft and white ready to wear.